Haaretz reports that the United States plans to establish a model that turns Gaza into two Gazas. So they're going to balkanize an already balkanized territory, whereby the reconstruction phase begins in areas under Israeli army control, 58% of the territory of Gaza, behind the yellow line, starting from Rafah, and will not begin in the rest of the areas until Hamas is disarmed. It appears that the Israeli political level represented by Netanyahu has approved these plans in secret discussions. The American plan has no timeline and will take years, yet the United States is pressing to move forward with it and aspires to deploy international forces in the areas of New Gaza. Now, the international security forces, Russia and China, are blocking the U.S. plan for Gaza, and it makes a whole lot of sense when you actually break down what is going on here. Trump wants to king himself as the chairman, the director, essentially, of the transitional government inside of Gaza. I kid you not. And he doesn't see this as being like an issue for Trump to be the director of the Gaza plan. Obviously, this is some sort of like a play that Trump is trying to level on Israel. There's a lot of conflicting powers at play here. Obviously, the Russians and the Chinese are concerned about the sovereignty of the Palestinian people, making sure that the Palestinian people in Gaza have the ability to determine their own future. Trump is more concerned with showing that he is stronger than Netanyahu, and he wants to have his plan fully enforced, which includes, of course, the deployment of international troops, ISF, into Gaza. As I said, that plan is never going to actually happen because Trump said we have a bunch of regional partners who are committed and ready to go to Gaza. He was referring to Turkey. He was referring, I believe, to like Indonesians or Saudis. And the Israelis came out and they said this week that Turkish troops will never be allowed in Gaza. International troops will never be allowed in Gaza. This is never going to happen. Surprise, surprise. Trump's plan is pissing everyone off. And really, we're at a loggerhead because no one seems to be able to agree on how to progress. There is only but one correct way to progress, and that is with respect to the Palestinian people, which is what Russia and China hope to bring to the table. But let's break down exactly what was supposed to happen here. So according to the peace deal, Trump's peace deal, there was supposed to be a 3-phase Israeli troop withdrawal in Gaza. Now, the original lines that Israel was supposed to maintain was the yellow demarcation line, which encompassed 53% of the Gazan territory. Then they were supposed to withdraw once more, creating these smaller and smaller security buffer zones maintained by the IDF. Until the point where we got to this narrow strip of territory, which is like a IDF military occupied gray zone that goes across all of Gaza's borders. Now, this did not happen. What ended up happening was Israel said we are going to control 53% of Gaza with our yellow demarcation line. And then they moved the territory up to 58%. Israel also still controls 40 IDF military bases inside of that 58% demarcation line in the parts that Gaza is supposed to have sovereign control of. So that didn't work. The troop withdrawals aren't working. The question of Palestinian resistance disarmament is, as the Palestinians say, incumbent upon Palestinian statehood recognition. So until there is recognition of Palestinian statehood, there will be no disarmament. So this is basically the major issue that we actually see playing out. Right now, there's also some interesting rumblings with the Trump administration maybe employing a new approach to Gaza. Haaretz reports that the United States plans to establish a model that turns Gaza into two Gazas. So they're going to balkanize an already balkanized territory, whereby the reconstruction phase begins in areas under Israeli army control, 58% of the territory of Gaza, behind the yellow line, starting from Rafah, and will not begin in the rest of the areas until Hamas is disarmed. It appears that the Israeli political level represented by Netanyahu has approved these plans in secret discussions. The American plan has no timeline and will take years, yet the United States is pressing to move forward with it and aspires to deploy international forces in the areas of New Gaza. Now, the international security forces part of this has not been agreed to by the Israelis. We will discuss that in a moment. But first, we need to address the actual moving forward of this plan, which basically everyone at the UN Security Council, including Arab states, including Russia, including China, has all said that they vociferously oppose. They all are opposed to this American draft and the Board of Peace concept. That's what Trump is labeling it, the Board of Peace. But they also don't want the U.S. to fail and as a result, go at it alone outside of the United Nations. By going at it alone, Trump would effectively kill the very same plan he has helped so much to praise. Let's go back here. So China and Russia, two veto-wielding members of the UN Security Council, have called the Board of Peace plan under President Donald Trump's ceasefire UN proposal as a non-starter. They said this Board of Peace needs to be removed. And Trump is apparently not budging too much on that matter. Trump is budging on parts of this peace plan that he has submitted at the United Nations, but not that. One option the Trump administration is considering to drop in the stage of its Gaza plan that requires a stabilization force to disarm Hamas if it can't get support at the UN for its current plan. So reconstruction can begin immediately. So the only part of the Trump plan at the UN that he's considering to drop is the part that Israel is upset with. Multiple Israeli officials have come out and said how much they oppose an international security force. The foreign minister, Gideon Sa'ar, said Israel will not allow the establishment of a Palestinian state. Israel is dealing with an unusual phenomenon, terror states that controlled territory. 3 of them are still fighting Israel with the goal of destroying it. Hamas from Gaza, Hezbollah from Lebanon, and the Houthis from Yemen. Israel will not agree to the establishment of a Palestinian terror state in the heart of the land of Israel at point blank range from all of its population centers and with topographical control over them. Netanyahu came out and said our opposition to the establishment of a Palestinian state on any part of the land has not changed. Gaza will be disarmed and Hamas will be stripped of its weapons, the easy way or the hard way. I don't need reinforcements, nor tweets, nor lectures from anyone. So he's basically coming out and dissing Trump, saying, fuck you, Trump, stop with your tweets. We are not going to listen to what you have to say. Itamar Ben-Gvir also said, probably the worst of all, there is no such thing as the Palestinian people. This is an invention with no historical or archaeological or factual basis. The group of immigrants from Arab countries to Israel is not a people and certainly does not deserve a prize for war crimes, murder, and atrocities that have spread everywhere, especially from Gaza. So this whole idea that disarmament can be achieved through recognition of a Palestinian state, which according to some, the Trump administration might even be considering, is a non-starter for the Israelis. This is according to the U.S. State Department website. I'm not taking this out of thin air. According to the State Department's website, we are issuing this statement as member states gather during a high-level week to begin this process, which offers a pathway towards Palestinian self-determination and statehood. The United States announces officially and explicitly that the goal of the Gaza plan, which is expected to be approved this week at the UN Security Council, is the establishment of Palestinian statehood, or I guess they said the pathway to Palestinian statehood. The U.S., Qatar, Egypt, and the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Pakistan, Jordan, and Turkey stated in a joint declaration published through the U.S. mission to the UN that we issue this statement as member states convened at senior levels to begin the process, which offers a path towards self-determination and establishment of a Palestinian state. Now, that does not address the bigger question of this board of peace, as Trump is calling it, and that he put in the initial Gaza plan. Russia and China are very opposed to this. The board of peace is obviously a U.S.-led mechanism that sidelines any sort of Palestinian sovereign authority in Gaza and imposes external control on Gaza. The draft does not explicitly endorse a path towards Palestinian statehood. It just says, this is something that we support moving towards. And the proposal also mandates demilitarizing the Gaza Strip, with Trump leading the board of peace, whatever that means. Now, the Russians came out quite explicitly and they opposed this. They said in multiple statements that they will not support this board of peace, the plan in its current form. Maria Zaharova also came out and said November 15th is the day on which the state of Palestine proclaimed its independence. On this day in 1988, the Palestinian Declaration of Independence was adopted in Algiers. Our country recognized Palestine 3 days later. She followed that statement up by saying, since 1947, we have been principled and consistent in defending and upholding the legitimate national aspirations of the Palestinians, an Arab nation, including the right to establish a self-governing and independent state. Okay, so the Russians and Chinese will not get on board with this plan that involves a board of peace governed by Trump, which deprives the Palestinian people of their sovereignty. Trump is trying to float this idea that with the help of an international security force, they can not only disarm the Palestinians, but they can secure a path towards Palestinian statehood. The Israelis are saying there will be no ISF, there will be no Turkish troops, no Indonesian troops, no Saudi troops or troops from any other country. And we will also not tolerate Palestinian statehood. And they are basically giving the middle finger at Trump here. So everyone is in disagreement right now. This is not what you want to see. And in my view, this is all about to fall apart if they cannot come together with some sort of an agreement in the face of Israel's ludicrous claims. Obviously, they're not going to get on board with anything that is moderately just for the Palestinian people. But the U.S. needs to get on board with the rest of the world, with Qatar, with Egypt, with Jordan, with Turkey, with Saudi, with Russia, and with China, and say the U.S. is not going to lead the transitional government. Uphold the Beijing Declaration, which says that there will be some sort of a joint transitional government, not led by Hamas, but by a coalition under the leadership of the Palestinian Authority. This coalition will embody the 13 members of the Palestinian political leadership that were represented in Beijing and Moscow during the negotiations that eventually culminated in the Beijing Declaration. And this needs to be the transitional government that oversees Gaza. There is no other way of getting around it. The U.S. will not oversee this. Tony Blair will not oversee this. Gaza will not become a tax haven. Gaza will not become a blockchain hub. Gaza will not become a speculative ground for man-made archipelagos off the coast. Yes, these are all real things that are being considered and floated and proposed, but they will not have the support of Russia, China, or the Arab states. Interestingly enough, the Saudis have also been very steadfast in this. And they've even said that they will not normalize with Israel until a Palestinian state is recognized. They've even come out this week and said they will not normalize with Israel as long as Netanyahu is in power. So some good developments, some bad developments. It's good to see that Russia and China are taking a firm stand at the United Nations Security Council. But if there's no success by all these countries in pressuring the U.S. into a correct position, then there is no hope for any sort of peace for Gaza in the near future. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.